Chapter 16, Section 1 continued. Now you have millions of immigrants coming into the United States, and millions of them are going to be arriving mostly at one of two places. They're going to arrive at Ellis Island in New York Harbor, or they will arrive at Angel Island in San Francisco Bay. And where they land depends on where they come from. If you're coming from someplace across the Atlantic Ocean, you're going to be coming to Ellis Island. If you're going to be landing at Angel Island, you're going to be coming someplace across the Pacific Ocean. Let's begin by talking about Ellis Island. Ellis Island is going to open in 1892. One of the big things you're going to see as you approach Ellis Island is the Statue of Liberty. You can see Ellis Island there in the background, in this area here between the land masses. One of the first things you're going to have to go through when you enter Ellis Island is a physical exam. And this is one of those things that if you do not pass this physical exam, you're deported. You're not allowed in. They're checking for things like mental disorders, contagious diseases like tuberculosis, any other serious health problem. Once you pass the physical exam, get in line. Going to be this long line that you're going to have to wait through. You're going to go through this maze of aisles, kind of like at an amusement park. And then when you get up to the front of the line, there's going to be an inspector that's going to question you. They want to know, what is your background? What job skills do you have? What relatives do you already have here? And if in their line of questioning they find out that you're some kind of criminal, you're sent home. If you have no way to support yourself, no relatives here, no job skills, you're sent home. Overall, though, most that come through Ellis Island are going to be allowed into the United States. That brings us to Angel Island. Angel Island opens around 1910. Angel Island is going to have a very similar process to Ellis Island. One of the big differences, you're going to have mostly Asian newcomers coming to Angel Island. Many of those are going to be Chinese. Now with the Chinese, there's going to be very strict regulations. Instead of just saying, hey, do you have any job skills? Great, come on in. With the Chinese, they had a list of certain job skills they wanted, and they would only allow in certain skills. Obviously, if you were coming from China and your parents were born here, you're allowed in. But if you can't meet any of the other restrictions, you're deported. Now, some people were going to be kind of held. They're going to be detained, waiting on a ruling of whether they can come in or they can't come in. So they're kind of just in limbo there, waiting to see if they're going to be allowed in. All right. So let's say you come into the United States from another country. Let's say you're from Europe, you come to Ellis Island, you come in. Life's not going to be easy. Life's not going to be easy at all. Conditions are going to be hard, but it was still better here than where you come from. Many are going to be settling in the cities. This is where a lot of the jobs were, but they were usually low-paying, unskilled jobs. Because you were getting these low-paying, unskilled jobs, you typically were going to be living in these very crowded neighborhoods. Some areas are even going to develop what are known as slums, these poor, crowded neighborhoods. And as you start looking at the cities of the Midwest and the Northeast, they're going to start getting a patchwork appearance. Now, when we say patchwork, some people have heard of patchwork quilts, where you have the different patches that are sewn together to make one quilt. When we're referring to the people in the cities and the immigrants, we're talking these patches of these ethnic communities, these close-knit immigrant communities. You may have the Polish settle in one area, and you may have Germans settle in another area, and Italians in one area, maybe Chinese in one area, and you're going to have these close-knit immigrant communities developed. The reason why is simple. Residents in an area with people from where you're from, they're going to speak the same language. They're going to follow the same customs. And this is going to be stuff you're familiar with, so you're going to probably be drawn to those areas. The more immigrants came, you're going to start seeing the development of benevolent societies. Benevolent societies are very simply aid organizations. Sometimes they were religious based, sometimes they were not religious based. Bottom line is, they were there to help people. If you're an immigrant family and you're brand new here and there's a major sickness or unemployment, or some of your family dies, or you need to get some kind of education or training, a benevolent society, that could be someplace you could go to get that assistance. You could see different churches or synagogues or temples, depending on the religion of the area, that would help provide community centers, trying to help out in various ways. With economic help, daycare, gyms, adult education, maybe some loans, some kind of insurance, something like that. Bottom line is, the more immigrants that came, the more of these charitable type of organizations developed. A lot of the immigrants, as they come, they're going to be urged to join mainstream America. One of the most resistant groups to that are going to be the elderly. They cherish the old ways. They cherish the customs, the dress, the food of the old country. The children, on the other hand, were usually very quick to adopt the American culture. They thought the old world language and customs were old-fashioned. They wanted to blend in America. They were embarrassed sometimes by that older generation. As far as the work that the immigrants do, they're going to do America's dirty work. They're working construction. They're working in the mines. They're working in the sweatshops. Difficult work, exhausting work, so many times dangerous work. And they're working long hours. Sometimes just to make enough to make a living, they had to work 15 hours a day for very low wages. So even your best paid are barely making enough to live on. And the last thing we need to talk about is two different immigration philosophies. On one hand, you have the melting pot. On the other hand, you have the salad bowl. Let's start with the melting pot. As you have immigrants coming here to the United States, you have your Chinese, your Irish, your Italian, your Mexican, your Russian, all these different immigrants, they come here to the United States, and they're going to melt together to form one society, one American society. It's like taking a bunch of cheese and putting it in a melting pot. You warm it up, you mix it all together, you can't necessarily tell the difference between all the cheeses anymore. You formed one new thing, melting together to form one society. On the other hand, you have the salad bowl. And with the salad bowl, you're again going to have all these immigrant groups coming here, but they're going to keep their unique parts. So they're going to form one American society, but they're going to keep their unique parts. You can see the Chinese elements, the Irish elements, the Italian, the Mexican, the Russian elements. It's like a salad. You can take your lettuce and your tomato and your croutons and your cucumber and your carrots, and you can chop it all up, and you can mix it all together, and you form a salad. But you can still pick out the unique parts. Not necessarily saying one of these is more accurate than the other. There are areas where you can argue that America was a melting pot. There are areas where you can argue that America could be considered more of a salad bowl.